let's have it. I'd like you to meet Tommy McGuire and his combo.
Hello, and welcome to the Stateside Madness podcast, the one and only podcast of the official Madness American fan service. I'm Laurie, along with my co-host Poly, here to bring you news, reviews, and deep dives into the nutty sound of the British pop band Madness. Welcome back to Stateside Madness, the podcast by American Madness fans for American Madness fans. I'm Laurie.
And I'm Poly.
And this is going to be our second episode on Suggs, the man himself. That last episode was a lot of fun, though, wasn't it? What did you think of that one?
No, I had fun as always. It's nice. It's fun talking about Suggs, clearly the most identifiable member of the band. And, there's a lot to talk about. He's an interesting guy. And I'm happy to talk a little bit more today. Yeah.
So specifically for American fans who really probably don't know a lot about the man. If Suggs were to walk down the street in New York City or in Chicago or in LA, he might be recognized by a small handful of people, but he's really not the kind of celebrity that he is in his native country. And he's really well known for a lot of things, not just for being the lead singer of Madness. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today are going to be some of the projects and stuff that he's done that have not been available to American fans. So a lot of this will be new to a lot of our fans. Now, obviously, those of you listening from the UK, you'll be like, oh, I already knew about that. Well, what can I say? There's not much we can do about that.
I'm sorry, really sorry for the things I do. I'm sorry, so sorry to spoil the fun for you.
Me can't give you no more advice. You have to fix up the situation, yeah?
So where we last left it was 86. Madness had broken up. Right around the time Madness were breaking up, there was a collaboration, Suggs and Chaz Smash. They did a little one-off single under the name The Fink Brothers. Do you know anything about the Fink Brothers, Polly? I always put you on the spot with this stuff. I was going to say, do you remember Judge Dredd?
Oh, I remember Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Both versions, both the comic book and the Prince Buster sort of pseudonym. So the Fink Brothers were, arch enemies of Judge Dredd.
Yeah, and they were cannibals. At least that's I only know the Sylvester Stallone movie from '95. So, but yeah, they were cannibals. They were members of the Angel Gang, a vicious band of hillbilly mutants from the wasteland outside Mega City 1, and sworn enemies of Judge Dredd, not least because he killed most of their family. So Suggs and Chaz Smash became the alter egos Angel and Ratty Fink, named after these comic book characters. Incidentally, you know who had a cameo in the Sylvester Stallone movie Judge Dredd?
I'm gonna. Oh, actually, it's right there in your notes. I was gonna say, I was gonna guess it would be between Tom Waits, Lemmy Kilmister, or Ian Dury.
Okay, well, your third guess would have been correct. Ian Dury played in an arms dealer named Geiger. It was a very short role. He did have a funny one-liner, though. And Ian Dury, for Americans who might not know, is a British songwriter and singer. And he was very, very influential on the band Madness. They cite him as one of their influences. So the Fink Brothers released one and only single entitled Mutants in Mega City 1. And this was released in '85. Do you want to hear it? Are you sure?
I do.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. I'm very sure.
Okay, let's play it.
What's up, Earthlets?
You know, if I hadn't known that this was Suggs and Chaz Smash, I don't think that this song would have registered to me that I knew who this was. You know, I mean, it's just so completely different from everything that they have done. It's kind of bizarre.
No, it's a pretty forgettable song, and the movie wasn't that great, so nothing to support it.
Well, the movie wasn't until '95. So, I mean, they were obviously inspired by the comic books, right? They couldn't have been inspired by the movie. The video with like the break dancers and it's just, okay. I guess it's good that they got it out of their systems, but I think really only the absolute diehard collectors would have snagged the song. That's my guess.
So also post Madness, more already.
It's all right.
Also post Madness, Suggs became quite sort of like a valuable player, hot commodity for guesting on things. And one fairly successful collaboration was work he did with Morrissey. He did some additional vocals for Piccadilly Palais. Am I getting that right? Here's where all the British listeners start laughing at us. So he did that in 1990, and also Sing Your Life in 1991. And later on, Suggs would do a cover of Morrissey's Suede Head in 1993. And of course, Suede Head being, a very, very recognizable Morrissey song. And I would just say that I really love that matching of Suggs and Morrissey. Morrissey clearly, another one of those British songwriters that talks more about existence in the UK and that slice of life type of stuff that I talk so much about. So I really love seeing them together, and they did some really solid work. Anything else, Laurie? How about another collaboration?
All right, so another collaboration that might be well known to American listeners was a band called The Farm. They had some pretty substantial airplay here in the States in about 91. So Suggs had produced a one-off single for them called Hearts and Minds way back in 84. But after the split of Madness, he really kind of became their producer, and I believe even their co-manager. So he produced their album Spartacus in 91 and Love See No Color in 92. And if you listen to the radio at all in the early months of 1991, you could not avoid The Farm. The song that I think got the most airplay was probably Groovy Train, which we're going to listen to a little bit of here. So let's listen to Groovy Train.
You're so special. Oh, so special. Oh, so special. She sings, get on, get on, get on, get on, get on, my groovy train. Get on, get on, get on, get on, get on, my groovy train.
It's catchy, it really kind of got lumped into, I think, the Manchester scene, with like the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses. But The Farm weren't from Manchester. They were from Liverpool. So it's interesting that it would get lumped in on that scene. But that's one thing that I think that he's done that many American fans would know. And then there was another collaboration that he did with Jules Holland and his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. Jules Holland is a British, he's a TV host, isn't he? He hosts like music programs and stuff. And I guess he must have had his own little side orchestra. I guess it's kind of like, Doc Severinsen had his little side orchestra right from the Johnny Carson show and stuff.
Sorta.
Okay, correct me.
So Jules Holland was piano player and keyboardist for the Squeeze.
Oh.
And he was sort of, he's sort of the musician's musician, or, one of them. He takes it very seriously, very, very skilled in boogie-woogie piano. And he kind of carries the torch. He's very instrumental, pardon the pun, instrumental in sort of fostering and supporting music acts in the UK. And so, yes, he did have his Jules Holland television program later on BBC, and it is sort of showcased every week. 6 or 8 different bands that would play all on the same soundstage. So it was really cool. You would end up seeing, Depeche Mode maybe playing 15 feet away from a metal band. It was really a pretty cool show. Jules Holland just plays on a ton of people's work. He's played with Dr. John. He's a really in-demand session musician. And so he's done a rhythm and blues orchestra. He's done a ska orchestra, these big 20, 25 piece bands that will do a lot in the way of standards and will do a little bit in the way of original music as well, which I do believe the 2 things he's done with Suggs were both written by him and Suggs. So there you go. That's what I have to add on Jules Holland.
I thought you didn't do research. That just all came out of your head, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for educating me. I did not realize that he was that prolific. And we will listen to one of the songs that Suggs co-wrote with Jules Holland later on today. All right. So this is kind of where this is not going to really be in chronological order, because Madness get back together right around this time, about 92. However, Suggs continues to work on a number of solo and side projects. So he had a few solo albums, and again, I don't think any of these were released in the United States. So he did a solo album called The Lone Ranger in 1995, and most of the songs on that album were written by Suggs with Mike Barson. So again, as Madness is back together with Mike Barson, that songwriting collaboration continued not only with Madness, but also with Suggs' solo work. He released a Christmas EP in December of 95. We heard one song from that Christmas EP last episode, that Sleigh Ride that you played. Then there was the Three Pyramids Club in 1998. And now this is a new writing partnership. So most of the songs on the Three Pyramids Club were written by Suggs with Steve Laroni from Altered Images. And that might account for why I think there's a very different sound in the songs between the Lone Ranger and the Three Pyramids Club.
Pushing his pen across the page to nowhere in particular. He's dreaming of his holidays. His stomach's perpendicular. He tried to keep his keen fit interest, but the summer's nearly here. The only exercise he really gets is when he's lifting beer.
One of the solo songs that I think he was best known for was from the soundtrack of the movie The Avengers. Now, I'm not talking Marvel's The Avengers. I mean The Avengers with Mrs. Peel, the old British detective show. I don't know, what would you classify that? It's not really a detective show. It's like an adventure kind of James Bondish kind of team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
it's spy adventure.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So he did the theme song for that, which we heard a little bit of in the previous episode. It's called I Am. We'll hear a little bit more of it later today. So then as far as his solo works are concerned, so he released then a best of platinum collection in 2007, which really kind of had the best of the other 2 albums and a few other little one-off singles. And then in 2013, he released something called the Suggs Selection, which is interesting because none of the songs on the album actually feature Suggs. It was mostly curated 3-disc collection of songs that he liked, and I guess he worked as a DJ for a while on a radio station, so maybe that's what inspired this Suggs selection. I was kind of disappointed listening to it because there was no Suggs, but I don't know, it's just me. All right, so boy, he did more than just recording, though, didn't he? I mean, he was an actor.
And so, along with his solo music work, he also had enough time to dabble in acting, and he actually has a pretty extensive list of films and television he's appeared in. Starting out with 1989. He played himself in the movie The Tall Guy with Jeff Goldblum, appearance on a kids show, The Press Gang. He starred in a Channel 4 film, The Final Frame, in 1990, in which he played a pop star named East, so comfortable territory there. Played Rex in the film Don't Go Breaking My Heart in 1999. He also played Joe's dad in the stage musical Our House in London's West End. So good on him for that. Familiar territory. He was also in The Edge of Love, 2008, playing a crooner, and sang Hang Out the Stars in Indiana. So again, playing to form. Suggs, My Life Story in Words and Music, the live stage show 2017, which regrettably, I never got a chance to see, and I bet I would love every minute of it, though. And then Suggs, What a King, C-Nut, A Life in the Realm of Madness, live stage show. I don't know whether it ever happened or pre-pandemic, but it's certainly been postponed, and they're hoping resumes in 2021.
So, I was doing a little bit of digging this morning, and the 2017 show, My Life Story in Words and Music, Julian Temple actually filmed that, and that was supposed to have been a film that was released in January 2018. But I couldn't find anything on whether or not it was actually released. I mean, obviously it's not on DVD. If it was released, it must have been a very limited release in Britain, but that might be an interesting film to try and get a hold of.
Yeah, it's on Amazon right now. Actually, it was on my Christmas list.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you write these episodes.
Yes,
because
but I didn't get it.
Well, then we know you weren't very good.
It's okay. I got the talking heads stop making sense, so I did all right.
Nice. That's a good one. So the What a King Canute, that I know because I have some friends in Britain that had gone to see that. So I know that the stage show did start. But yeah, I think it was postponed because of the pandemic. And
do you want me to reread that?
If you'd like to. If you'd rather.
As I said, C-Nut. I never heard it pronounced.
Well, see, that's where there's some debate, right? So it's like there was a Norwegian King Canute, K-N-U-T. I don't know if that's how it's being pronounced or not. I mean, obviously this is transposing the letters so as not to get in trouble for having an obscene 4-letter word. So I'm fine with C-Nut. We'll leave that in.
It's the simple equation of good versus bad. The terror of knowing all that we've had has to be paid for in the long run. Books, balance, justice seem to be done. Oh yeah, sure, conscience and all of that stuff. We'll sort that out later, you've time enough. Right now you must realize that not much is fair. Where you hunt with the hounds, now you run with the hare. Without low, there is no high. If nothing fell, there'd be no sky. Without far, there is no near. The days that separate the night.
And then the Our House musical. Did you ever have an opportunity to see any of the videos of this Our House musical, or do you know anything about it?
No.
You know, they tried to do the same way they did with like Mamma Mia with ABBA songs, you know, to try and put these all in a musical. And it's just awful. It reminds me of an ABC after school special. And I know a lot of people are going to be blowing up my email for that and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, but I tried to watch their videos of it on YouTube. I mean, the music is great, but the plot is just terrible. I mean, even for musical theater, it's pretty bad. So don't at me. So, in addition to his screen and stage acting, Suggs also made a bit of a name for himself over in Britain as a television host. He hosted a karaoke-style show called Night Fever. He was in a few episodes of a show called Salvage Squad, which was about restoring classic cars and machinery. And he hosted a show that I actually a friend bootlegged it for me. I thought it was very good. It was called Disappearing London, where he's kind of taking you on a tour. It's like a Travel Channel style show of different places in London and kind of, you know, telling you all of the stories, not the stories that you would get on a tour, but like, you know, the insider stories. I thought that was really well done. That was a really cool series. I'd love for them to pick it up over here.
Once round Arnold Circus, up through Petticoat Lane, past the Well of Shadows, and once back around again, arm in arm with an abstracted air, to where the people stare out of the upstairs windows, because we are living like kings, and these days will last forever.
Speaking of which, then he also wrote a book called Suggs in the City, My Journeys Through Disappearing London, which is kind of based on that series, I believe. He had his autobiography, That Close, which came out in 2013. And then he contributed to Before We Was We, The Making of Madness, which came out in 2019. That's another book. And that was all 7 members of the band contributing to an oral history. I'm an avid reader, so I've read all of these. Quite frankly, it's interesting to me, the 2 books, Suggs in the City and That Close, the 2 books that Suggs authored have a very different voice and a very different tone. I suspect that he probably used a different ghostwriter on these 2 different books. I liked Suggs in the City a lot better. It was a lot more engaging and interesting to me. But have you had a chance to read any of these, Polly?
No, I haven't. Although I'm an avid reader, it's generally not of long form text. So yeah, so it's on my list of stuff to get done.
So all of this was going on after Madness had regrouped, right? They regrouped in 1992 for Madstock. But that's another story for another episode.
So we put together a sort of list of facts about Suggs you might not have been aware of. And we're going to call this segment, Don't Quote Me on That.
Don't quote me on that.
Please don't
All right, and so here are some alternative facts about Suggs. Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk after meeting Suggs backstage at the 1982 VMAs, and he felt the need to back away from Suggs without breaking eye contact. Twyla Tharp once choreographed a ballet called Suggs, where the dancers wore sunglasses, sharp suits, and only moved their arms below the elbow. Louisa May Alcott originally named the Sisters of Little Women Suggs, 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 and Suggs, but her editor was a jerk. Suggs is a linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Suggs has one word for snow. It's snow. Suggs often credits his success to only eating orange food. And Suggs never asks twice.
We did something a little bit different here for the top 5. So in the past, we've limited it to songs that the person has written or co-written. But because we feel like many Americans will not have heard a lot of Suggs' solo work, Poly and I kind of decided to waive that rule. So we decided that we're going to pick our top 5 of Suggs' solo projects, regardless of who wrote them. And there's a few cover versions in here as well. So, Poly, do you want to start us off with your number 5?
Sure. So my number 5 is Suggs' ode to his hometown, his neighborhood. It's Camden Town.
Sing up, tourist. Sing. There's a great crowd of tourists and they're coming down the street. Please, there's punch with brand new Dr. Martens on their feet. Past stores of leather jackets, old bric-a-brac, Indian sunglasses or a Chinese bubble hat. Tramps stare in the window of a local butcher shop like a pack of wild dogs. They run off with the lot and Primrosilla, an angry man. His hair standing on end, shouts and rants in the ear of his imaginary friend in Camden Town. I'll meet you by the underground. In Camden Town, we walk there as the sun goes down. In Camden Town. In Camden Town, you can do anything you want to. A drunken busker hits the pavement, sending hot dogs in the air towards a broken down bus.
So, Camden Town, I love the song. It's nice. It's sentimental. It's many things that I've talked about liking in songs. But I have a bit of, and just a little bit, of a personal connection in that today is Boxing Day. And on the 24th of December, a couple of years ago, I was in London and we made a special trip to Camden Town for me to go to a punk record shop. And the shop ended up being closed. I was very disappointed. So we spent much of the time just walking around Camden Town, going to whatever shops we could go to. And I was lucky enough to find a record store open. It kind of made me feel a little bit better. And I was able to pick up a copy of Prince Buster's Golden Oldies, Volume 1, which made me really super happy. And I just loved seeing Camden Town. We had been right in London proper, right at Hyde Park, and it was posh, and it's its thing, just like you'd expect. But Camden Town felt like where I should have been the whole time. Definitely an eclectic part of the city, a lot in the way of pubs, great vibe, street markets. It just seemed really, really cool. This was also a lot closer to the time after Amy Winehouse had died. And there was much merchandise and much representation of her around, which I thought was really, really nice. She's a hometown hero, just like Madness. So there you go. There's my fondness for Camden Town, the song and the town.
That's cool. That's a cool story. And I forgot that Amy Winehouse was from Camden Town as well. Madness is not the only band from there. I think it's interesting how this song kind of foreshadows a little bit what we're about to see in Liberty of Norton Folgate. That idea of kind of songs about locales and places. I think it's a little bit of foreshadowing there. All right, well, my number 5 is a cover, so it's not written by Suggs. It's a cover of the old Simon and Garfunkel song, Cecilia. Let's take a listen.
Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence daily. Oh, Cecilia, I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you, please, to come home. Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence daily. Oh, Cecilia, I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you, please, to come home. Come on home. Making love in the afternoon with Cecilia.
So I chose this one just because I think it's unique. It's a very unique spin on the song. I mean, it's a song that I grew up hearing, you know, Simon and Garfunkel, 70s, right? That's why I chose it, because I think it's got such a unique spin on it. I don't think it's better than the original. I definitely prefer the original, but I still think it's kind of a cool cover. Any thoughts on that one, Polly?
I think you did a fine job. The updated instrumentation on it makes it a bit better for me. I just happen to not be a big fan of Paul Simon or much in the way of the folk singer-songwriter stuff. That's probably my desire to be a brash young punk when I was a kid. Not that I was successful at it, but we all got our dreams, right? So yeah, I know, I could take it or leave it.
Well, what was your number 4 pick then, Polly?
Okay, so my number 4 pick was So Tired. One of the songs that Suggs had written with Steve Laroni. And let's take a listen.
Sometimes alone I feel so strange, like every little thing's just out of range. Breathing in the cold night air, it's 4 a.m., there's no one there. Rain is falling on my head, running down my back as cold as lead. Then I fall off the night bus going home. I'm stumbling, staggering alone, just like a tonka in the rain. Under the moon we're all the same. Dirty old river rolling by, black taxi rain falls driven. When I was younger, I didn't need no one. Those days are long gone, 'cause I'm so tired of being alone. Out there on my own, call me back, oh, ask me to stay. Yeah, I'm so tired of being used in the street, dazed and confused. Let me in here, ask me to stay.
So I'm generally a fan of the Suggs solo work. I think the vast majority of it's upbeat. Like you had mentioned, the Manchester music scene. I think this is a little bit of a holdover from stuff like that. This reminds me a great deal. All of the instrumentation on that solo album reminds me a great deal of like the Primal Scream and Happy Mondays, Black Grape, stuff like that. It's taking your basic 5-piece rock band structure, adding a lot in the way of percussion, keyboards, horns. I think it really flushes it out, fills it out. And I just love the song. What are your thoughts on So Tired?
I got nothing to add. I mean, it's an okay song. It's not as memorable as some of the others. This one wouldn't have been top of mind for me if you'd said, you know, hey, name your top songs by Suggs. This would not have been one of them. Not because it's bad. It's just not as memorable to me as some of his other compositions. So.
And what about you? What's your number 4?
Well, I really struggled with this one. I chose the Three Pyramids Club, which is on the same album, same songwriters, Suggs with Steve Laroney. So let's take a listen to that one. Isn't it interesting how we can have two songs on the same album with two songwriters and have them sound so different? I chose this one because it's got just kind of a, like almost a retro James Bondy kind of feel. Like there's some kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm at a loss for what the words I want are, but I mean, it just kind of got this kind of dark, almost like film noir kind of undertone to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got the word for you.
Okay.
It's Casablanca. Yeah, it's that nightclub kind of at the end of the world sort of thing.
Ooh.
Where all the scoundrels and ne'er-do-wells go and collect there. That's kind of my take on the song.
I like that. You know, kind of related. Santa brought me, because we finally got a Blu-ray player. We're finally in modern times. Santa brought me the Mummy trilogy on Blu-ray. And I had never seen the third one in the trilogy, which was the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And the part that I just loved and kept coming back to was the fact that Jonathan owns a nightclub in China called Imhotep's with an Egyptian kind of theme. And all of the dancers are dressed in like Egyptian garb. And that's the kind of thing that I visualize when I hear this song. You know, again, you mentioned Casablanca, that kind of a seedy club kind of thing. And that's kind of what I'm picturing. It's like slightly out of place, right? You don't expect Egypt in the middle of China. But that, you know, again, you mentioned the ne'er-do-wells, you know, kind of the bad element that tends to congregate in these kind of places. It's got that kind of a vibe.
Yeah,
right.
And a real solid song.
It is, definitely. I agree. Okay, let's move on. Number 3. Polly, what's your number 3?
All right. So my number 3, also off the Three Pyramids album, was Girl.
For all of the girls, I'm know them of the millennium share and the 2000 figure. Well, big up all glamorous girls them round the world. Suggs and General Levy, love all the glamorous girls. Them coming like diamond and pearl. On the first time we see them girls, yeah, it's like our sun start to shine. Sing.
There's a simple story of a boy who didn't hardly know how to enjoy his life. Too busy running down the street. Running the spotlight in his feet. As a younger Muslim boy bursting through the world.
So, Laurie, what's your take on that?
I don't have one. I haven't listened to it enough to really be able to appreciate it, I don't think. Tell me why you chose it.
No, I love the upbeat stuff. And I think that sometimes, and we talked about this a bit, and how on Mad Not Mad, I was not a fan of introducing too many, I think I was referring to Aphrodisiac and how they became very, very prominent and up in front on a lot of those songs, and how sometimes you lose your identity a little bit in that. When you've got somebody like Suggs embarking on a solo album and essentially a tabula rasa, here's, go ahead, do what you're going to do. Inviting people in really adds a great deal to it, I think, in this circumstance. And I think it's, real dance hall thumper. I don't know. I think there's a lot to like there.
Cool. Very cool.
And what do you got? What's your number 3, Laurie?
Well, I chose Oranges and Lemons Again, which Suggs recorded with Jules Holland in his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. And you talked so eloquently about Jules Holland earlier in this episode. Let's give this one a listen.
The crooked leg, the crooked mile, the hotel lift and the menacing smile, the energy of an itinerant child, to catch a glimpse of Mr. Oscar Wilde. Waterborne, Southend-on-Sea, twisted bend disability, load up Mr. Bowdiddley and Richard III, with the most unroyal mouth that you've ever heard. He's never gonna do it, oh he hasn't all. They're smiling politely but they're really appalled, and it's turned out oranges and lemons again, all 3 bells in a row. We're in and out the Eagle and up and down the city road.
The reason I chose this one, not only because I think it's a decent song, is because this was written by Suggs and Jules Holland, but it's very clearly about Ian Dury. So this is now the second time in this episode that I'm mentioning Ian Dury. And again, it's a shame that he's really not known in America, because he was a very, very talented songwriter, poet, if you will. I would love to do an episode in the future specifically about Ian Dury. I'm still trying to talk Poly into it. I'm hoping that Poly will let us, because I think it's important to introduce, American audiences to this man who was so influential to Madness.
Well, hey, you never know. We might find time to do it.
Okay.
Wouldn't say we're going to run. It's not like we can talk forever and ever without repeating ourselves. So yeah, we'll find a way.
And like we'll find a way to play Night Boat to Cairo again, right?
That's right.
But anyway, that was Oranges and Lemons. Poly, what did you think of Oranges and Lemons Again?
I like the song. Right off the bat, the title has a bit of an old-timey sort of feel. It sounds like it could be, World War II era big band title. I like it. I think it's really, really solid.
Cool.
And I do love the expanded, orchestra sound. So no, I like it. I think it's a real solid effort.
Awesome. All right, so your number 2, Poly. I had to dig a little bit to find this one. I'd never heard this particular mix before. Do you want to introduce this?
Sure. So I picked No More Alcohol, and the version I picked was Rapinoe's 12-inch mix. If you are online at any of the music streaming sites and they've got either of Suggs's solo albums, they probably have that and a couple of other different versions. And I just think it's a very, very fun sort of party anthem. And this mix is just super, super high energy, fun, funny. I just think there's a lot to like there.
Let's listen to it.
Stop your drinking, stop your fighting, stop your fussing, Mr. Stop bad minding, stop going wicked and stop one bad and can't you see that you're making me mad? And how many times do I have to tell you? Can't you see what you're putting me through? Oh, stop going wicked and stop one bad and I can't take it no more.
Cherry on a cardboard cake, so roll out the barrel tonight. I've had my fill, empty but my pockets in the barmaid's till. Dancing through the doorway, out into the street, uncoordinated feet. No more. No more.
When I played this, Polly, I was just so floored. This is so completely unlike anything that you have chosen in any of our other episodes. That's why I emailed you in the middle of the night. I'm like, is this the right version? You have very well-rounded tastes.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it strays pretty far from punk, which was my gateway to madness, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can not like it. It's just so fun.
You know, I was thinking a lot more about the whole punk thing. And I think punk enabled madness to do what they do, because punk, it was that whole do-it-yourself ethos, right? The idea that you don't need to have music lessons, just strap on a guitar, create a band, right? And I think that that enabled madness to be what they are. But I don't think that their music was influenced by punk. You know what I mean? I think it's weird. It's kind of this like fork in the road kind of thing, you know, where without punk there wouldn't be madness, I don't think. But I don't think that madness were influenced by punk in the way that so many other bands were. I think they kind of took it and just said, yeah, you know, we don't need razor blades and spiked hair. We don't need that crap, you know? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think punk, I think it's more about the ethos, which I think might be the second or third time I've said ethos in this episode.
It is.
But it's more, yeah, it's more the DIY thing, I think, is what you hit at. That's right. And but you know, punk was very, very undefined at the beginning. And if you think of the bands that came out of CBGBs, who everybody really considers that as like ground zero of the origins of punk, you've got the Ramones, who are their archetypal punk band. You've got Blondie, who did a lot in the way of punk, were considered punk, but they were in all essence, a pop band. You've got Television, who was considered punk, but they were all, by all means, a jazz, rock, not prog, but, you know, they're clearly different. And then you have Talking Heads. I mean, punk was not, you know, a linear movement. Right at the beginning, it was already very eclectic. And so, yeah, and I mean, the ska movement was, or the ska revival movement was just one more offshoot of that. So, yeah, I don't think defining punk or putting too many parameters on it lends service to really what the whole movement was about.
All right. On that note, do you want to hear my number two? Do you know? Do you want me to introduce my number two?
Oh, that's right. We were doing songs. That's right.
We were. But you know what? I mean, I kind of.
Yeah, by all means.
Oh, well, you know, I picked up on something you said, and I kind of went off on a tangent, and then you picked up that and ran with it, and that's awesome. I love when we can, you know, bring in other elements of music into this. You know, I mean, the music that we love did not evolve and avoid. You know what I mean? There are all these influences that came before. Because now I really am rambling. I'm going to cut that out. Shall we move on? Shall we move on to my number two?
Yeah, sure. So, Laurie, what is it?
Okay, so I chose I Am, which, again, it's from the soundtrack of the movie The Avengers, not Marvel Avengers, all right? This is the British spy thriller adaptation. This was co-written with Nick Feldman from Wang Chung, which I did not know. Let's listen.
I am a man. I am what I am. I am a man. I am a strange. I do what I can. I am a man. I am a man. Wouldn't be nothing without my woman. I live and breathe. I am what I am. I am alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. 'Cause what you see is what you get. Yes, my friend, we haven't started yet. One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. You gotta let it go, you gotta let it be. No, you cannot hide from the devil in me. Let it go, you gotta let it be. You cannot hide from the devil in me. If you're gonna find some kind of peace of mind.
So I know, Polly, this was on one of your lists too. I think I fought you for this one because you wanted this on your list. Why did you like this one?
Oh, I mean, it's got all those elements that I talk about. Very high paced, a little less heavy on melody than I like normally, but that the horn section really makes up for that. I love that deep baritone delivery he gives on it. Yeah, so you know, it's something we all know Suggs is capable of doing, but he doesn't really pull that trick out too often. So I don't know. I really like this song.
Yeah, the horns for me are my favorite part. I mean, that really just kind of carries it. And it's an interesting choice because if you were to, you know, ask somebody about the 60s television show, The Avengers, that this was based off of, what kind of music would they associate with this? I don't think that they would have chosen something with like such a heavy ska influence. I could be wrong, but I mean, I associate that more with like the mod culture, you know, with mini skirts and the bright colors, and it's an interesting choice. But I mean, I think it works because it is so British, and it really is. It's a very, very British franchise, The Avengers, and it's a very British sounding song. You know, you're not going to hear anything like this over here, I'm sorry to say. All right, let's do our number ones. Polly, what's your number one?
Okay, so my number one is Straight Banana. And why don't we give a quick listen?
I ain't never ever seen such a straight banana.
One man's feeling is another man's fault. Someone help me find this door. It's not where it was before. I should know, I'm not too sure.
faded photos that wouldn't burn. Oh, that's just the way it goes.
All right, and Laurie, I'd like for you to go first and give your thoughts on Straight Banana.
I almost chose this as the intro song for this episode until I saw that it was on your list. And the reason that I wanted this is because I really felt it's almost, I don't want to say autobiographical, but I mean, it's that whole first person kind of, the role that he's playing. And I think also it's very representative of his songwriting style, his sound. Why did you choose it?
Not that we don't, or I don't repeat often what I like about songs. I know what I like about it, but I just, even decades ago, hearing this song, it just jumped out at me, just grabbed me. So I could name all the things. I could name them. But really, it's just like it grabs hold of you and doesn't let you go. I mean, it's funny, it's silly. I just don't think there's anything not to like about it.
It's catchy. It's very catchy. It's got a nice hook.
And Laurie, what's your number one?
Well, I took this in a completely different direction than you did. So we mentioned the movie On the Edge of Love, and Suggs played a crooner. And the song that he did in this movie was a cover of an old song by a guy named Al Bowley called Hang Out the Stars in Indiana.
Hang out the stars in Indiana, up in the sky of midnight blue. Hang out the stars in Indiana to light my way back home to you. Have every robin sing a love song, a melody just meant for two. For in my heart there'll be a love song, a song I love to sing to you. I'll put off finding things I sought for. No wonder they were all denied. The very happiness I fought for was right back by your side. So wait for me in Indiana, and when the long, long day is through, hang out the stars in Indiana to light my way back home to you.
See, I just love this. It is like this old big band kind of sound. It's a classic. It's a throwback to another era. I know that Angelo Badalamenti, he did a lot of the composition on this soundtrack, and I can feel his influence here as well. This is my favorite thing that Suggs has ever done solo, bar none. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it, Polly, because you and I are from opposite ends of the musical spectrum here. So be gentle.
No. I actually like it. I think I like it with an asterisk. I love the idea that this is him doing it in a movie, and he is playing a character and he's inhabiting that character. When somebody takes that out of that context and does it like to introduce a new phase in their career or something, I think I would use like Rod Stewart sings the Great American Songbook thing that he did a couple years ago as an example. Not that I was ever a huge fan of Rod Stewart, but when you do a hard stop, break away from the genre and the style of stuff that you do, boy, you better do it really, really good. and it's very risky, and it often alienates fans. And, you know, so if that was a direction Suggs was going to go with as like the next phase of music he was putting out was going to be all this sort of crooner sort of stuff, I would definitely not like it. You see it as a person playing a role in a movie, and I absolutely love it.
And see, I'm the exact opposite. I would love for him to do an entire album of like 30s and 40s, you know, Glenn Miller type stuff. I think it would be amazing. But I can see where that would not appeal to a lot of the fans. I agree with you on that. So, wow. Okay. So now we've hopefully, over these past 2 episodes, given our listeners a bit of an idea of who Suggs is and why he's so important to the band Madness.
All right, Laurie. So we're very near the end of this episode, and let's give the listeners out there an idea what we're going to do next time around. So next time around, it is going to be our friend Chaz Smash. We're going to talk a lot about him, about his contribution to the band and other stuff he's done, and I am super, super looking forward to this. And I know, Laurie, you've got nothing but love for Chaz, so I know it's going to be a good one for you too.
All right, so I'm going to close this episode with an unreleased track by Suggs. I came across this, somebody gave this to me a few years ago. I don't want to say where I got it because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but we wanted to give the listeners a chance to hear something, even our friends in the UK, something they might not have heard before. So this is a song called The Girl Who Truly Loves Herself. And on that note, thank you for listening. It's been another fun episode. So goodbye from me.
And goodbye for me. Go get a beer, Stateside Madness, with Suggs if you can pull it off.